Welcome to the Singer's Guide podcast with me, Tessa. This is the show for ambitious singers who want more than just scales and song practice. We'll talk about the things regular singing lessons don't always have time to cover. Because being a singer is about more than just your voice. It's about confidence, preparation, and all the little skills that make performing effortless. I'm excited to be your guide and your fellow traveller as we explore them all. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Singer's Guide podcast. My name is Tessa and I am so excited to share this episode with you today. The conversation that is about to follow is such a joyful and inspiring conversation with Jeremy Ryan Mossman. I absolutely love Jeremy's approach to singing teaching, and the social media content that Jeremy puts out is so inspiring. I actually refer to it quite a lot during lessons that I give, and body-based voice ped is on my wish list. So I was extremely excited for this conversation, and I am really looking forward to you listening too. So let's ask Jeremy the question, what do you wish singers knew? And please do let me know if you enjoy this chat as much as I do. Here we go. Thank you, Jeremy, for joining me on the Singer's Guide podcast. It is a genuine pleasure to have you here.
Oh, it's such a treat. Thank you for asking.
I have been a big fan of yours. Ever since we did a workshop with Voice Study Centre, which was all about lip syncing. And then I followed you on social media and I just love everything you do. So I'm super excited to hear your answer to my slightly tricky question, which is, what is one thing, and that's the tricky part, right? What is one thing that you would like singers to know?
You know what? It came easily to me. I just looked at the question and I went, oh my God, there's so many things. And then just the thing that popped into mind, I said, yeah, that's the thing. That is the exact thing, which is that you can start at the end. You can start with the outcome. I think we have inherited a lot of procedural things that we do, a lot of exercises that we do, a lot of things that are required to sing repertoire. And often lessons are shaped in that way, where you take the first portion of a session and you do the exercises, and the second portion of a session you do the songs. And I actually flip-flop that, and I have for years, just as having experienced a couple mentors who started with the song, and that set the stage. And after, the client sings the song or sings the phrase that's troubling them or the phrase they want to make some changes in, then it prepares the learning container in a way. And you know what you're working with. You know what the challenge is. You know how to start to dance and work around the challenge. And so it prepares the actual lesson to be very meaningful, because it starts with the context and stays within the context and the needs of the context. And then you keep checking back in with the context to see, did that make the change that you're looking for? Is the adjustment there? Do we want to adjust it more? What more can we do here? And how can we build from the context into the context so that we're never out of the context? And that's one of the things that I hear from some singers is, the exercises that they did, they're not sure how it contributed to the songs that they sang. And if they're feeling that consciously, there's also a subconscious divide. There's got to be. And the dots aren't necessarily connecting. And so as brilliant as the brain is, sometimes we have to show it more. We have to say, these dots that we're playing with right now are connecting to these dots, which is the song, and it's for this song. But that's not even necessarily what I mean by starting at the end. Like, that is absolutely putting the context first. But one of the most generative things that I tend to do with clients and people in body-based voice ped, community of voice teachers that I work with, is play basically acting games and drawing out the given circumstances, things like, who are you talking to and why are you saying what you're saying and what do you need by what you're saying? And it seems to be almost always that the more specific we get from moment to moment, the fewer technical issues there are to work on. And the first sing could have lots of technical issues that present themselves. But as a client gets more and more specific in what they mean by what they're saying, why they're singing, what they're looking to achieve, what it's like to receive feedback from an invisible scene partner, or even from, when we ask the universe questions, looking to receive some sort of sign, things get in line. Things align themselves. The technical issues dissolve. And sometimes there's one or two that maintain themselves, that one high note or that one funny vowel. And so when that is the case, it really shows that that needs technical attention, because no amount of storytelling can solve that problem. It seems no game is helping resolve that little whatever ickiness there is. And so it's an interesting thing to boost the storytelling element up first and then see what's left over to really focus on. And it simplifies the process, and it's really, really fun.
I was going to say, I love that. I feel like that would be very fun, because when I think of, like, the first singing lessons that I ever went to, which were classical, no, by no means a classical singer now, but it was often in that, traditional way that you've just explained, where we started with the exercises, there were warm-up exercises and various different technical exercises. And I just found them really boring. Like, and I don't know if whether I needed to understand the context of them more, or whether that wouldn't have made a difference to me as a teenager. I just found them really dull. And the reason that I went to singing lessons, and I think the reason a lot of us go to singing lessons, is because we love the emotional expression, the like feeling of freedom and creativity that we could get from using our voice in that way. And I love the way that you've just put that, because I think, yes, it's interesting. A lot of singing teachers maybe don't have that experience of switching it up. Why do you think that might be?
I think it's just the one format that is common. And so, I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but with the several voice teachers that I've had in my lifetime, it seems like that's just what you do. The first 30 minutes, you do some me, me, mama, moo, and some other stuff. And maybe never know why you're doing some of that other stuff. And maybe it has very specific value to the teacher, and there's a real specific reason why you're being asked to do it. Or maybe it's just some stuff. I don't know. And so I've never known. And so as a performer who became a teacher, I realized immediately when I started to teach that the things I was asking my clients to do, I didn't know why. I didn't understand why I was asking them to do that. I had my own favorite warm-ups. I didn't even know why they were my favorite warm-ups. Maybe they were just things that I remembered. But I just sort of said to myself, I don't want to pass on the confusion that I know I have. And that really inspired my learning journey, which has taken me far away from voice, because I keep finding like there's more to understand to come back into voice and recognize, like, why am I offering this client this exercise over another exercise? And so I've just had to shake the Etch-a-Sketch and just figure out what colors I want to paint with as a teacher. And I had some terrific mentors who really showed me other ways of packaging a voice lesson, which was very, very helpful, and putting the context first, and not just the context, but also like what the client really wants to express as an artist. I remember one of the schools where I taught, I was musical director, the director of musical theater voice for a bunch of years at a very sexy university in the States, with a well-known program. And I inherited a list of when each student does what kind of song. In freshman year, they do these kinds of songs. In sophomore year, they do these kinds of songs. And by senior year, they're singing the songs that they love. And I'm like, why are we making them wait? They came in as artists. They came in to become better artists. And we're saying the art that you love, you don't get to do for 4 years. That's not fair. And it's not smart, because these students who come in as contemporary singers, as belters, as rockers, like they come in informed and infused by music that they want to go and perform. To go yank them away from that and take them into a world in which they have no experience makes them immediately unsuccessful. Why are we doing that? Why are we taking students from where they feel successful as artists to somewhere they have no frame of reference? It's kind of like the notion of learning history from the present backwards. Instead of going from the beginning, go from right now, because I understand what it's like right now, and then take me back 5 years so I can see how we got to here from 5 years ago. So start where a client is expressive and feels wonderful as an expressive artist, and then expand outwards. So, I guess at the end of the day, this is all about honoring the artist that's in front of you and respecting the things that they want to do and staying, in my perspective, very squarely in my role, which is just to help you do what you want to do, but do it easier and maybe expand out should you want to expand out. It's not my job to tell an artist what kind of art to make.
I I love everything you're saying, and I was sitting here thinking about some of the courses that I have taught on and do teach on, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what happens. And I want to ask about the singers specifically when you introduce them to a lesson, because I'm going to make some assumptions, but most singing students will come in having followed that process of you do the warm up, you do the exercises, then you get to do the fun stuff. And I'm wondering how the response is when all of a sudden they're in a circumstance where they get to do the fun stuff first. And do you find that they're able to allow themselves to do that in practice as well? Or is there some residual like, no, I'm not doing it right because I'm not doing those exercises?
Good question. Let me start with the second part of that, and then I'll get to the first part. I think that's what people do. People get into the car and they sing. They get in the shower, they sing. They're washing the dishes and they sing. They aren't thinking, let me prepare with some exercises before I get to enjoy singing along with this playlist. So it's more real world to actually just go and sing. So can we bolster that process? Can we make that process an intelligent process? Go ahead. You have full permission to sing anytime you want to sing and count that as practice. That absolutely contributes to your practice. All I ask is pay attention. If something interesting happens, go investigate that. If you notice something, get curious and just keep your mind open, because that is what happens when we're singing with freedom, with joy, without pressure. Is often something new comes through us. We have a major aha moment and we investigate it. We sit with it and we go, what was that? Like, can I do that again? Like, oh my God, that felt so different. How did it feel different? And we start to analyze and we start to process what happened and repeat what happened and play with what happened. And what we don't realize is that is what learning is. We are teaching ourselves in that very moment. And so full permission to just go ahead and sing for joy, sing with ease, sing with pleasure, because we also psychologically want to know that we can do that anytime. That if I'm going to go on stage in a performance, I don't need to psych myself out off stage. I can just go and sing like I do in the car. Let's make it an easy thing. Let's make it casual. Let's make it because we want to express something, not because we need to go and get ourselves ready and do all the things. We kind of maybe make things difficult for ourselves. Not that warming up and mental prep isn't important, but if our best singing is in the shower in the car and we're not thinking about how to prepare for that, then how do we use that for the better? Now, I do have clients, coming back to the first part of that question, who I package things a little bit differently for, because it's so reassuring for them to be able to check in first. And so I work with the client that's in front of me, and I know the value of starting with the context. But if my client isn't convinced, or my client feels in a safer space to do a few things first, then I choose those few things based on the past, based on what we did in previous lessons, and building on functionally to the things that were helpful in previous tunes. So I'm still thinking within context, and they get to feel safe and comfortable in the session. And they also get to see the connective tissue between the things that we did that are purposefully sort of developed in my mind ahead of time, knowing this client or what we've done and what they might appreciate as a next unfolding. And so, yeah, I'm not rigid in my ways. Now, it is interesting. I remember in the last school I taught at, there was a young voice teacher who asked to observe me in my studio. And so he did. And he came in and he watched a few lessons. And after about 3 or 4 lessons in between the students, he said, I just realized something. You never warm your students up. You just go ahead and sing. And I was like, yeah. But it took him a while to recognize the format was different and that I was integrating the exercises inside of the context and that I was just sort of shaking things up a little bit. All the elements were there, but it didn't even cross his mind because I had a flow with my students. They knew, come in, sing. If you want to warm up, come in warm. And if you don't know how to warm up, I'll help teach you the things that might help you and the things that you can do on your own to prepare yourself how you like for a session so that you know what makes you ready. And so nurtures autonomy.
Jeremy, I love this so much. And I wish that, I think you and I are quite aligned in the way that we work. But I've been like, I wish I'd had this kind of lesson when I was younger. I feel like you're giving so much permission and allowing so much joy that has maybe been stripped. And if it's been stripped from me, then it's probably been stripped from quite a few singers. And so thank you so much for such a thoughtful answer. I've honestly really enjoyed listening to you talk.
Thank you. One of the questions that I get a lot from the folks in Body-Based Voice Ped is how do you hook a client? Like they're hooked because I've shown them, how we can work experientially and how we can start to shape things a little bit differently. And they ask, how do you hook somebody who is coming from a different perspective, a different learning paradigm? And it's really easy is the thing. All you have to do is ask them to do something that will make them curious. It's really easy, hook your lip and sing. And things are going to be changing. They're going to get a different result. I show all this stuff on social media, like pull the skin down, pull the skin up. And you're talking to the inside of the mouth as well. And you don't really realize it, but you're creating a huge vocal shift to appreciate, feel, and get really curious about. So it doesn't take a lot to hook somebody into a new way of learning. And the reality is it's an old way of learning. It's the way they learned as kids. And we're just tapping back into that and balancing all the many ways we could learn. We've just been taught that intellectual learning is real or is better or is where it should be, but we learn sticky skills that never left us as children, playing, messing around, holding an intention and giving it enough time and trial and error that we reached the intention and we never lost it.
I love that. Thank you so much. You've mentioned social media there. Actually, before I ask where can people find you, I just want to say it was probably about 3 years ago now. There's a social media reel and I show it to almost every one of my students when we're talking about, hitting high notes with ease. And it's the one that you talk about. Actually, you probably don't remember because it's such a long time ago. Your friends making fun of you because you'd be hitting that high note. And I will link it in the show notes because it's so brilliant that I show it to every single one of my students. And as I say, I love your social media. So please, can you tell people where they can find you on the internet?
Yeah. And for the record, I tell that story all the time. I told it this week because it's so real. Like we're accessing our craziest ranges all the time and don't know it. But you can find me on mostly Instagram. That's just where there's the most action, but also Facebook and TikTok. Body-Based Voice with J Moss, and my website bodybasedvoice.com. And I'm a happy sharer. I love to shop talk. So if any of your listeners have questions, they can feel free to reach out to me just casually.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to the Singer's Guide podcast. You'll find all the resources and links from this episode in the show notes. If you found this episode helpful, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a fellow singer who'd love it too. And don't forget to connect with me on socials at Tessa Smith Music. Keep singing, keep practicing, and I'll see you next time. Bye.